How many people, like Pete Kakris, decided to find out it was going to be a nice day before they came today? Would you raise your hand, please? Pete, is your hand up? Okay. He went home, right, okay. And we put together a small roast here, which we hope will be a little bit of fun for everybody in the audience, but also a tribute to Bob Adams' career at Auburn High School. Recognize some other people who are here today so that you don't say the wrong thing when you're talking with them later on. I mean, there are people here who knew Bob when he was a nice guy. I know that some people have come up from the Southern Tier, some friends of Bob's from back in Union, Endicott. Anybody here from the Southern Tier would just stand up, or if you're standing, raise your hand. There's one person back there. Had a huge, huge turnout, Bob. That was great. I know that there are a lot of coaches from Central New York who have coached with Bob over the years. And if you would just raise your hand or stand or to signify. Yeah, a lot of those guys showed up too, Bob. A lot of our invitations went out to former players of Bob who might have come back to Auburn. Are there any former players here today? Just maybe raise your hands. Yeah, 2 or 3 came back. If Bob has any personal friends in the audience, would they stand up?
Joker Hunter, isn't he?
Is there anybody else here that... this is a roasting. Are you all in the right place, or maybe Bob's in the wrong place? I want to apologize for the logistics here. You're all sitting in the shade. I'm standing in the sun. ESPN asked us to tape this for a future broadcast, and Steve Gage is going to tape this. In fact, Bob is going to get all the proceeds from the sales of the videotape. So before Soroka lets you out of the parking lot, there'll be another $20 assessment, and you'll all be sent a videotape of the performances here. On behalf of the Miller Brewing Company, Dave Daum would like to present a scroll or a plaque to Bob Adams. Dave, are you here, please? I know this one's here, folks. Right on it. All right, the beer people are here.
Yeah, anything to sell a beer. Which one works? Coach, congratulations on your retirement. A few of the guys that work for our company got together and put this together for you. And it says, "Be it so declared that we, the undersigned Light Beer All-Stars, do hereby welcome Bob Adams on the 6th day of June 1987 into the delightful years of retirement. We hope you will be afforded all the glory from your past achievements in the sport of football that you so richly deserve." It's signed by Ben Davidson, Ray Nitschke, L.C. Greenwood, Bert Jones, and John Madden. Congratulations on retirement.
Boy, the committee's done a great job, haven't they? Forging all those signatures. Excuse me, well, let me read a telegram here that came from the Citizen today. That was a laugh in itself. After arguing with Gary for several hours over which of us would get to write about Bob Adams and his many great virtues, it was decided that I was the better liar. Sports writers praised Adams for his ability to conduct himself as a gentleman following a loss, never blaming an official or one of his players. In other words, Bob always realized it was his own shabby coaching that blew the game. Bob had many ways of getting bodies into the Auburn football program. Many of his top prospects here today to honor him came from Auburn Prison. Marcy and Willard. Those on hand only need to look at the person next to them to attest to that. The proportion was usually 2 out of 3. During outstanding seasons, Adams was a legend. During off seasons, there were several reasons offered by Adams why the Maroons faltered. Reasons such as Greg Bahuniak, Jeff Iannari, Tom Blair, and Duck Pizarczyk. Both in victory and defeat, Bob always demonstrated a lot of heart, next to which he kept a flask of gin. When Bob's troops hit the shower, Bob hit the bottle. Still, despite his drinking problem, chronic absence from the athletic department, and lack of competent coaching staff, Adams' record speaks for itself. And on a serious note, that's all that needs to be said. Best of luck, Bob. Enjoy your free time and your family. Signed, Bob Mazio and Gary Piccirillo. They're just piling up here, aren't they? Next, I'd like to introduce Tom Blair, who will be making a presentation from some of the past captains of the Auburn football team. Tom, we're on a short budget here. Get over here. The videotape is running out already.
Jim will tell you what to say. You're full of strength.
Well, I want to know who it's from. This certificate for what? Test, test. Bob, on behalf of some of your past captains, Bill Soroka, Jimmy Kleber, raise your hands. Jimmy Kleber, you know Bill, he organized this thing. Myself, David Walsh. David, you didn't know you were doing this. David, where are you?
There he is, right there.
Oh, I didn't see you. And Greg Michaels, we have a gift certificate from Curly's Restaurant.
$4. Jeez, I'll be eating a lot of food. Thank you, Tom.
Next, I would like to have Bill Soroka come and make a presentation of a collage to Bob, which he will turn over to Dick Jones to be placed in a prominent place in Auburn High School. I think they were talking about putting it under the toilet seat in the men's locker room. So, Bill.
Tough act to follow. I'd like to have some of the other players from the 1966 team come up here. Jerry Stefanik, Jimmy Kleber, Tom Prentice, any other guys, because they're all part of this. This is in tribute to Coach Bob Adams, Auburn High School, 1966, 1986, from the 1966 varsity football team.
They're all still in shape.
And John Kogar.
John needs a razor for They took a guy with no beard to do something. That's really great.
I'd like to warn everybody to probably try to keep this as brief as you can because clams are going to spoil and we'll all get hepatitis. We have a long list of speakers here who would like to try to recap the illustrious past of Bob Adams in the Auburn School District and as football coach. We have these people strategically located so they each get progressively funnier. The only funny thing about this speaker is that last week he locked his keys in his car and it took him 45 minutes to get his family out. This person is very close to Bob, and I know this may be a very touching moment, so if you have handkerchiefs, you might want to get them out now. You may know that Bob missed a game last fall because his son was in the hospital, and Greg Bahuniak had to take over for him and run the team in the Cortland game. And when the gun went off at halftime, Cortland left the field and went into the locker room, and Greg sent in 3 plays and Auburn scored. However, we missed the extra point. And we wound up losing 20-0. I'd like to introduce Greg Bohuniak.
Jim's a tough act to follow, but it's not my best forte, but we'll do the best we can. Just a little something about that game. That was the second game that I took over for Bob. The other game, he came in after school. No, it was the morning or when it was, but, oh no, his son came in and handed me all the cards for the players, what positions they play, and for that night. I said, what's going on? He said, my father went to the hospital. They think he might have a heart attack. Not that we were playing a tough team or anything, but at least I had an afternoon to think about the game, not 5 minutes like the Cortland game. So we did win that game. And I think if I had more than 5 minutes to get my head screwed on right for that game, maybe we would have done a little better. But 5 minutes before the game, he said, I'm going. So, boy, well, that was a break, too. I said, now I can finally run the team after all these years. I just thought we got a special presentation for Bob. You know, most of these affairs, when somebody retires, you give them a car or something along this line. And we don't want to be left out with Bob. We want Bob. Bob has a tendency when he buys a car to look and see what the price is, no matter what the size is. I remember when Bob first came here. If you remember the Gremlin. American Motors Gremlin. It seats 2, and Bob had a family of 5. But at that time, it was the only car under $3,000. So he didn't care if he had to make 2 trips wherever he went. We steadily advanced in the car purchasing area, and he was up to the last car under 5,000, which was a Chevette. But now he's finally got a Cavalier, and we're all set, no problems. So just to give him a second car in case something goes wrong with the Cavalier, we have a car salesman at Auburn High School. Does this on the side, and he had graciously agreed to donate one of his vintage cars to Mr. Adams today in honor of his retirement. We have Mr. Egan over there with a 1963 Ford. He's got the keys all set to go. The best part of this, he's got to buy it.
I know I'd have to buy it.
He's not giving it to him. Also, this is the first 4-door model he's had. Now that his family's gone, they don't have to crawl in over each other. But I don't want to prolong this too far. And you know, I've been with Bob a long time, too long sometimes. But we're not. Yeah, Carol. Carol's the real one that should be up here. But you're not only honoring a retiring coach, but you're honoring Auburn's highest paid phys ed teacher. 21 years, no, it's 20, yeah, I was here 1 year before Bob. And when he came, I started right with him, and I should have the party, not him. It's for surviving this. The whole bit, it's unbelievable. We often, you know, trying to think of what I'm going to say when I got up here, I'd be driving down the street and I have a little piece of paper with me. An idea had come into my head, I have to stop and write it down. So they're blown away right now. So I'm going to be lost. But anyways, I thought one of Bob's biggest assets, he could call him a creator. You know, Bob's a phys ed teacher at the high school, and I have seeing him year after year. These nice kids would come to class, mild-mannered. They'd come into his class, and in 3 weeks, he's going crazy. These guys are turned into animals. And Bob's coming down, what am I doing to these guys? But Bob has a knack. And also, this carries over to his football coaching. He has a great knack for getting the best out of his players, and he's always done that. It's been a great part of his motif. He does have a bit of stubbornness to him, and along the way, we the assistant coaches have to try to figure out, how can we get an idea across to this guy? He doesn't want to listen to anybody. He's got his ideas. He's got his mind made up. So, how do we do anything with him? So we'd have to make him think that he thought of it. So, what you do, you see, Tommy Blair and I, Jeff, we'd plant a seed. We'd say, well, geez, don't you think, we'd give him a couple days. He'll come up. And then when he thinks it's his idea, he'll say, man, that was a great thought. So, but otherwise, without us, he'd have been nothing. I had more here, but I don't want to keep going on here. It's been a great experience for me. I haven't decided if I want to forget it or not, but it's been fun. And I've learned a lot from Bob. Being associated with him, he's a man to be a little serious for a change, a man of high principle. Swears a little bit of practice, though. But otherwise, it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot from him. I've only lost 2 basketball jobs following his principles. But otherwise, it's really been fun, and I'm going to miss those Friday nights on the sideline, those Sunday mornings watching films, those Saturdays scouting, all 7 days a week. It's going to be tough to pass by. One thing that we got for Bob. Bob has a nickname. But a lot of people don't know it, but this is carried through his probably through his college days. Most people in Auburn don't know. But he had a nickname. It was Beef or Beefer. So we got this little T-shirt made up, and it says, "Where's the beef?" on the front, and on the back it says, "The beef's gone." So, Bob.
Nice job, Greg. You're funnier than I thought you were. Geez, Bob, when I saw the price on the goddamn tickets, I figured at least they'd give you a Corvette. Get a bunch of lousy clams. Just found out the mayor has shown up. He's a little late. He had a fire in his bathroom. Fortunately, it didn't spread to the house. I'd like to introduce Mayor Loughran, who would like to present a proclamation to Bob.
I didn't know you were that funny, Jim. It's a pleasure for me to be here today on behalf of the city of Auburn. I was afraid that I'd be the only one on the lot that didn't play football for Bob Adams. But fortunately, Bob Dean is in the crowd, so nice to see you, Bob, because I'm one of those old-timers. I knew that Bob Adams would wind up as a football coach one time when I first got to meet Bob, long time ago. In fact, so long ago that he probably doesn't remember it. But Bob and I went through psychological testing together at one time, and I knew that he was a very direct person. They were trying to find an aptitude, and the psychologist asked some questions, and the question I remember, he said, Bob, if you were standing on a hill and a train was heading south at 100 miles per hour, and another train was heading north at 80 miles an hour, and they were 2 miles apart, what would you do? He said, I'd run home and get my brother. I said, why would you run home and get your brother? He said, because he's never seen a train crash before. At this time, I'd like to deliver this proclamation from the city of Auburn. It reads as follows: whereas Robert Adams, educator and coach in the Auburn school system, has had a positive impact on the lives of countless students. And whereas Bob Adams, as head coach of the Auburn Maroons from 1966 to 1986, covering 21 seasons, is recognized as the longest tenure in the 97-year history of Auburn High School football. And whereas as head coach, Bob Adams established an outstanding record of 116 wins, 61 losses, and 5 ties. He coached over 550 Auburn High School students, achieving 8 league championships. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Edward L. Loughran, Mayor of the City of Auburn, New York, on behalf of the Auburn City Council, do hereby bestow upon Robert Adams the designation of Distinguished Citizen, and in so doing officially recognize his outstanding service to the youth of our community. And as further evidence and as a memento of this occasion, Bob, I'd like to present you with this proclamation and with the key to the City of Auburn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Some of the gifts are nicer than others. A lot of coaches said they would like to say a few words about Bob if they could make the clambake today. Is Tom Landry here? Dallas? Dick Butkus? Oh, well, Fran Angeline from Union Endicott's here. Fran, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks very much, Jim. Honorable Mayor, Bob Dean, and friends of Bob and Carol. It's a real honor and pleasure for me to have been invited to join you today. This city of Auburn is quite an amazing place. I have been here a few times over the years, and I had a much more relaxing meal today. Last time I ate here in Auburn, I believe it was balloons, and it was a tremendous meal. When I came out feeling all fat and satisfied, there was something hanging in the shadows. I looked up at that big tower and wondered what the hell's going on here. I thought I was going to see some guns come out in a minute there. I thought perhaps the people of Auburn have not discovered what the nickname beef has come from. Now, when Bob first came with us in 1960, I just assumed that the nickname beef referred to, he certainly isn't the smallest guy in the world, so we just assumed that that was the reason and left it at that. Upon further investigation, when Bob and I went back to his alma mater, back to watch a football game at Buffalo, I discovered from his teammates that the nickname came from the fact that he was always beefing about something. So if you haven't heard that before, Bobby Deming can certainly substantiate that story. I'm sure anyone here who's played basketball with Bob, we've all had a lot of fun, but I've never, I guess we all set some amazing picks at times, but Bob's the only guy I've ever seen giggle while he's in the process of setting a pick. And if you hear the giggle coming, boy, you better get out of the way. True story, a quickie. In the early 60s, we used to play miniature golf as a staff after different athletic banquets in the spring around the Triple Cities. We graced all the courses. None of us could play very well, but we sure tried. And one particular night stands out because it was in Owasco. Al Brunetti, your newly appointed football coach, might not know this story, but there's a miniature golf course in Owasco. I just passed by it the other day and was reminded of one rainy evening when we were out on the course, and one hole had a garage, and the garage had those doors that would open not in rhythm, but with a non-rhythmic cadence. And Bob was having a tough time on that hole, and he finally picked up the club and fired it smashed that little garage, and I think they closed down the course. It hasn't recovered since. Bob Adams never discusses politics. True? You people can't tell me that he talks in the faculty room about politics. Never. Anyway, in 1962, Governor Rockefeller was in office at the time. Bob and I were hustling back from a football game in Middletown, New York. These are all true stories. A very severe snowstorm. We were trying to make it back to scout a game at night. We had played in the afternoon, and we got hung up on the Windsor Hill. You people from Auburn, your nice Finger Lakes don't know about the Windsor Hill, but in those days, in '62, it was a line of traffic all the way up this hill. People sliding and everything else. Bob jumps out of the car and screams at the mountains, "Rocky, where the hell are the snowplows?" Only he used much stronger language than that. Another time we were going to scout a team in Philadelphia. We had a championship game scheduled against Johnson City, who was playing Neshaminy in Philadelphia. And we hadn't even cleared town when Bob and another assistant, Frank Sorczynski, he should be here today, Bob, had an argument about a book on the Vestal High School shelves. I think it was Catcher in the Rye, I'm not sure. And the argument was whether it should or should not be allowed reading and all that stuff. Some of you administrators can appreciate that. And back and forth they went. I had to stop the car, kick the two of them out of the car, settle it in the field, and then we can continue with our trip. True story. Ladies and gentlemen, on a much more serious note, Bob was the first assistant that I ever hired in 1960, and it was the best decision I ever made. And he has contributed so much to this community, and I realize most of you already realize this, or you wouldn't be here. Unfortunately, there will be a few who will never know, but as the years roll by, Bob's absence will be felt by many, many more. Bob Adams is a class act. Bob Adams is a winner. Carol and Bob, best of everything.
This next person is a member of the Auburn High coaching staff. In 1956, there were 4 running backs in the Mount Carmel backfield, and this guy was 3 of them. Bill Fitzpatrick.
It's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon to honor Bob. With Bob goes back to 1964. It was down at Ithaca College when Fran was doing a clinic down there, and he was running the summer camp, football summer camps. It was the first time I looked at Bob and I said, gee, that Angeline's got some big staff. They were humongous, weren't they, Ange? Biggest staff I had ever seen. I'm bigger than, college coaches, bigger than anything I'd ever seen. I look, and one of them happened to be Bob Adams. In 1967, I made a wise decision and went to work for Bob. Eventually, we started out going through all kinds of stages, whether I was going to be his JV coach or one of his assistants. So it was really a pleasure starting with Bob. And I worked with Bob until 1977. And during this time, I just went back through in my mind here trying to jot down some highlights of our careers together. Like we had many experiences that I couldn't share with you people that Bob would know, Ange would know, a few others would know. But Bob was the original inventor of the bell ringer. We had sent Billy Huther to England, and at the time, Bob and I were up in at a party at Huther's apartment with this Bill Carriage. And it got to be 5:30 in the morning. I'm sure Carol was calling my wife and trying to find out what the heck are they up to tonight being out. But there was a bell on the top of Bill's staircase. Bob is at the top and I'm at the bottom. Well, the original bell ringer was Bob Adams hitting the bell, having it fall down a flight of stairs, hitting me on the head and almost knocking me out. And also, I think Bob's coaching, Bob reached his peak in coaching and did his best coaching, and probably the hardest year of Bob Adams' coaching career was when Mount Carmel closed and we assumed and we had to merge the two teams together. And Bob did a fantastic job, I think, of bringing the whole community together. It was a very difficult situation. I think that is one of the best accomplishments I can say about Bob, the fine job that he did in bringing the whole community together in difficult circumstances. I think Bob's real sport, like Ange has alluded to, is basketball. He does his best coaching for people down at the Y. Well, he's playing, he's coaching. Football, I don't think he knows as much about. But we were watching the Ithaca-Vestal game, and Henry Vetter, Bob, and I were under the goalpost. And Hank and I were drinking his blackberry brandy. Bob says, "No, I can't do it. Fran might see me." Okay, now, Bob will finally learn this year, September, whatever the opening game is, at home, what coaching is really all about. He has no idea. He's completely ignorant. I've sat around now since '77, listening up on the hill how dumb this man is as a football coach. We have the hill, for people from Binghamton area, the hill overlooking the stadium. Everybody congregates up there and everybody's a coach. So what I've done now is I know old coaches, they don't die, they don't retire. I have a little something to help Bob now. I know he's the highest paid phys ed coach, okay? but he's giving that income up now. Big income from coaching. So what we have now for him is a personal retirement kit, Internal Revenue approved, IRS tax sheltered income, and it will also, I'll present this to you now, Bob, to get you used for his use up on the hill. He's got his glasses, put them on, his tin cup, some pencils you can sell, and be in good shape. But I also have another present that I think he will be needing. Coach Brunetti would really appreciate this one. This will be the hardest thing for Bob to do now. Okay, they're always part of the game. Now, Dick Jones has given us permission to put a hook, like the clamp here in front, up at East Middle School, while Bob is on the hill supplementing his income. We also have for him a little thing. It's kind of kinky looking. It says Kathy's cuffs, wrist and ankle restraint cuffs to keep him on top of the hill, off the field, and to keep him busy supplementing his income. And it's also good if Carol just wants to keep him home at night. Thank you. Real pleasure.
Thanks, Bill. In 1971, there were 4 running backs in the Auburn High School backfield. This next guy was 3 of them. Dave Cunzio.
It's nice to follow Bill Fitzpatrick. When I first heard through a letter from Bill Soroka that Coach was retiring, it started out with, "As you know, Coach is retiring." I didn't know. I mean, I live in New York. I had no idea. So he said, "Well, maybe you might want to say a few words." So I wrote a speech. And then later on he called me and said, "Well, it's going to be a roast." so you can throw my speech away, but I'd like to paraphrase some of the things I had to write. I read it to an associate who gets paid to do these kind of things, and he says, you better not read this. So I won't. The summer of 1970 was I'd like to take you back. The summer of 70 was an interesting time. Mount Carmel had closed. And if you remember back then, we had a pretty good football team in Mount Carmel. We were 8-0, and Auburn High at the time was 7-1. And we had, I think, 16 or 17 guys coming back that had lettered for at least 2 years. And the high school had, I guess, 11 or 12 guys that had lettered for at least 2 years. And, you know, if you add the two numbers together, you kind of realize that there's only 22 starting positions and 29 guys who could play. So I asked Howard, who's a good personal friend of mine, I said, look, you know, how is Coach? Is he a good guy? Is he fair? How does he, you know, does he like, what are his practices going to be like? And Howard looked at me and he said, yeah, he's a fair guy, but he likes to hit. And in Mount Carmel, we never hit. And our scores indicated that. So I was somewhat apprehensive, and I really wondered, if you think about what was going on at the time, it was kind of a tense situation. You've got the Catholics versus the Protestants, and we were definitely outnumbered. So we had to think about how the hell we were going to do all this, and I never forget going to the first practice. And after being a starter for a couple years in Mount Carmel, I figured, well, at least maybe second string and give me a shot to give Dennis Allen, who was the leader at that time, a chance to give him a run for his money. Well, as it turns out, I was third string, and that was kind of hard to deal with. But it was until years later that I realized what kind of a situation Bob Adams had on his hands. It was kind of a volatile situation. The town is a small one, and people watched like a hawk how favorites are played and how you would handle the situation of a combination of events. And I learned a lot from Bob in the way he did handle that situation. I was never concerned about being fair, because he was certainly a fair man. I learned about integrity. It was certainly something that I learned that he did what he said he was going to do, and I never once questioned that. You know, these things are important in life as you move on. And I try to lead my life, and I try to emulate the things I learned from Bob. And I guess I wanted to come back and publicly acknowledge that he had an impact on my life, and I thank him for that. And I'll miss him. I'll miss reading the paper when I come home. So, Bob, I guess you said a lot of things when I was there, and I got to tell you that I listened. So thank you.
Thanks, David. I want you to know that I know a little bit about Bob Adams, too. And you have to know that given Bob's background, to be truly fair to him, you'd have to say he started at very humble beginnings, and he had a shaky start. When he was born, his parents were involved in a custody suit. Ultimately, the judge ruled that whether they liked his looks or not, they had to take him home with them. But as most of you know, he rose above all that, and he became a very successful coach and even a legend in his own mind. There's Howard Richardson.
Thanks, Jim. I've had the opportunity to play for Bob for 4 years, parts of 4 years, and now I'm on the Hill with the rest of the guys that are criticizing coaches' play selection, whatever on the field. And I've heard some of the players talk about Bob saying how unfair he was to some of the players, that you know, he treated some players better than the other players. But after 4 years, I can really say that Bob treated all of his players the same, like dirt. Before I went off to college, Bob took me out to dinner one time, and we're in a classy restaurant. And the waitress comes around, and we're ordering our meal. And she asked Bob, well, what would you like for your hors d'oeuvres? And Bob said, well, I'll have French fries. So the first time I get to Boston, I'm going out with the players there. I didn't know any better, so when the waitress asked me what I want for my hors d'oeuvres, I said French fries, and everyone laughed at me. I really didn't understand it, because Coach Adams, I thought he taught me well. But I'd like to wish Bob the best in his retirement, and really happy that I had the chance to play for him for 4 years. Good luck, Bob.
I think one of the important things of this whole ceremony to Bob will be we have a scrapbook here, and I would like for each of you to sign it and maybe leave a note with him before you go. It's up here in front. And, you know, when you're going over these things later, that they make an awful lot of difference in your attitude toward the day. And after we get finished frying him, he may look for a few positive notes. So if there's anything nice you can think about Bob, put it in a book. All right? All right, here's a guy that in 1967, at the height of his football career, was timed at 4.5 for the 400-yard or for the 40-yard dash. Unfortunately, he was timed with a calendar. Carl Petrosino.
I still got the moves, Coach. I thought this was a PTL meeting today. I just want to say right off that you look around at this crowd, look at the former football players in the crowd. There are very few of them out there today, with the exception of me and I think Buddy Hardiman, who can say we're still at our playing weight. Bob touched many, many lives in his coaching career. I can remember right after our last game in 1966, we all decided to get together and play a little football game on Thanksgiving up at East High. And we were blessed with about 8 inches of snow on the ground, which made it real nice. So we decided to play tackle since it would be soft. And Bob, on that one day, eliminated 23 prospects from the following season's team. Don't ever play tackle football with Bob Adams. I looked over there at that small incline, and it reminded me of the hill. Now, I'm sure that there are no football players in the crowd who ever remember running the hill. It wasn't that memorable an event, but I do remember pouring my heart out one afternoon in August, second of the double sessions that day, running those hills. I think I'd already done about 100. And I fell flat on my face, passed out from the heat, and Coach Salvatierra came over and helped me get my helmet off, throw some water in my face. Bob came over, and with all the care and love that he had for his players, he said, "Roll that fat bastard out of the way." Mention has been made of the coaching staff on the hill, and I will admit that I'm one of those coaches up there, but you see, I was spoiled because the year that I played for Bob, I had the best seat in the house to watch a football game. If Bob had helped me a little more, I had the potential for a full scholarship to Oklahoma. They have a lot of tornadoes there, and they needed someone to hold the bench down. On a serious note, though, and this is a fact that many people, I'm sure, are unaware of, in 1966, our extra point defense team, our front four outweighed the New York Giants' front four. It was amazing, really. No one scored on the ground on us that year. Even Rome Free Academy, I will mention. And that was one of Coach's strategies. What they did was, when the ball was snapped, I would lay lateral to the line, and Stefanik and Simmons would push me through. It was a great play, and one that goes down in history. I remember how apprehensive we were when old Deco hung up his cleats, and we found out that the new coach was coming to Auburn. We were all hanging around in the cafeteria at East High talking about this new guy that was coming. And our real first experience with Bob in a coaching situation was going to come on a Saturday in August when Ithaca was supposed to come down to scrimmage us. And Ithaca came in, and John Kogar was really an untested receiver at the time on the team. We knew he had great running potential, but his hands were kind of questionable. So Bob called the same play 4 times. John would roll out of the backfield, go down about 40 yards, and break across the middle. Billy Huzak was the quarterback, and he threw the ball and hit John in the hands and fall on the ground. 4 times in a row this went on. Finally, Bob says, Kogar, come here. Give me your helmet. I'll show you how to run this play. So Bob got in there, and the ball was snapped, and Bob ran his route. Ball came over, hit Bob in the hands, and fell on the ground. And in true coaching fashion, he went over to Kogar and said, you see, you son of a bitch? He said, you screwed this position up so bad, now nobody can play it. There were some memorable players on that first team, and I'm sure that they're burned in the coach's memory. I remember Angelo Tazzi was on the team, and I don't think Ange made it today. He's working protecting the city from fires. But we used to keep Tazzi on the team because Coach would put him in without a helmet, and he'd just scare the other team. I don't know how many of you remember Mark Drennan. Mark was a receiver for he was an end for the 1966 team. And probably the greatest coached, best executed play in football history occurred with Mark Drennan lugging the ball. Now, I want to tell you, Mark had bad legs. He was slow to begin with, hurt his legs more. I could beat him in the 40-yard dash. It was an end around, and the play, Coach, I think you remember it. Oh, yeah. Every single block took place just as it was supposed to take. And Mark was in the end zone, and then Tommy Prentice ended the career of a poor Ithaca running back. He just threw the block for the heck of it. Batavia, was it, Coach? I remember looking for Jimmy Kleber's contact lenses out in the middle of East High Stadium. 42 Auburn High football players in our complete dress uniforms and our Thursday night practice on our hands and knees, crawling around looking for a contact lens. The scouts loved that one. Oh my God, I ran out of things to say. Jim Cranfield used all my good jokes to begin with. Coach, I just want to say that I enjoyed watching football with you in 1966. Thanks a lot, Coach. Good luck to you.
That was pretty good. A lot of you people have lost track of this next gentleman. After he left the Washington Redskins, he worked as a human cannonball in the circus because Joe Gibbs told him he was a man of high caliber. Buddy Hardiman.
This is funny. I've given a lot of speeches all over Washington, D.C. area, Virginia, Maryland, a lot of speeches. And it always is the toughest thing to do to come back here to Auburn. It really is, in front of all the people that I know, I grew up with, and Bob Adams. This is really tough. It really is. So bear with me, okay? I'm not going to stay here long because this has gone too long. He did teach me, though. He taught me to be the person I am today. He's a great human being and an individual that I myself will always respect. And for me to stand up here and roast him, it's really hard. It really is. So he's a guy that I always respect. And for him to be not the coach at Auburn High School here in Auburn, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people, for me in particular. Bob Adams, thank you for the years that I had, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me to make me the kind of person I am today.
Okay, enough of the funny stuff. Here's a man whose idea of a magic trick is to make a bottle of gin disappear from a brown paper bag. Bob Gallagher.
Okay, I've known Coach for about 20 years. I had him for teacher in 3rd grade at Seward School. he looks about the same. In between third grade and in high school, I really never saw him, but next time would probably be in varsity football. I used to see him every day on the Fat Hills. Those were real fun. And I think one of the most memorable times we had, one game we were playing Fowler. We were playing Fowler at Central Tech, and we had the second team out. Fowler didn't have a very good team, but we had the second team out, we're way ahead, and we threw an interception. Chris Yanch tackled the guy out of bounds, and next thing you know, Donnybrook came out. Chris tackles the guy. Next thing you know, the cheerleader's kicking Chris. Then Bart comes over. Chris Barrett comes over. And Chris is swinging every which way. He knocked the cheerleader out. Then you look over, and all of a sudden, Fowler's whole team, they clear the whole bench. They come running out like a bunch of banshees. And all of a sudden, you see Coach, and he goes, "Okay, everybody down." Everybody sits down. Coach wanted to be the first guy out. So he was the first guy out there, and he's grabbing guys and throwing them out. And then they asked us, they said, "You can either end the game right now or finish it." And we finished the game. I think we beat him pretty bad. But it was a pretty funny situation. And he always will. I'm going to miss him as a coach. But I know I'll always be out there able to play basketball against him and see him down at the Y. And I got to thank him because he's done very lot for me. Thank you, Coach.
The next speaker is a member of the committee, so he probably won't be very funny at all. Although I know he's been planning this for about 6 months. Here's Jim Meade.
Oh.
Thank you, Jim. Matter of fact, Jim Cranfield is just have a news flash from the state semifinal baseball game. Final score, Auburn 2, their opponent 0. What I was saying about Jim Cranfield has come a long ways in the last 25 years. The Gilded Throat of the Auburn Maroons. As you know, Jim announces the football games. And back in '64 when I played, I remember a game against Union Endicott when Fran, Angeline, and Bob brought their team into the stadium to play. At the time, UE had been averaging 38 points a game, and our star running back was brother of Jim Cleaver, Dougie Cleaver, and he was number 30, and Doug had a knee injury. So Coach Paradise thought that, well, so they won't target him, we'll change jerseys. We'll put number 40 on him and put 30 on Tommy Jones. But the ever-astute Cranfield spotted the change and was very quick to announce over the PA system that the jerseys had been changed and that Doug Cleaver was now wearing number 40. And then seeing Coach Paradise wave his fist in what he thought was approval, he announced it a second time to drum out the last 6 words that Paradise and Al Emmy ever said to Cranfield, which was something about "you dumb son of a bitch." I have a gift from Bob from the faculty that eats lunch with us, Mod 4 this year. Every day Bob leaves us with a little something when he goes. Some days words of wisdom, some day complaints, usually beefing about something else, but every day he leaves, well, there is never a doubt where Bob has sat in the faculty room. To Coach Al Bernetti, Bob has always been a tough recruiter, always recruiting in classes, and just because he's retired, I don't want you to think that he won't stop recruiting for you. As some of you know, Bob is teaching up at the middle school in the afternoon, and he has 2 all-girl classes. And as of yesterday, doesn't make any difference, Bob.
All right, thanks.
As of yesterday, we have 24 girls signed up for football, and I'm sure they will help out the program. And Al, I hope in a few years, when it's time for you to retire, you'll know when to do it. A good indication will be if you stand up at an award ceremony in front of 500 people and introduce one of your players that's having a giant heart on, you'll know when to retire. Over the years, people have wondered how Bob and I, a football coach and a soccer coach, have gotten along so well. Did we have problems recruiting the same players? Well, we had a very easy system. We always went by the SAT test. If a student scored between 1,000 and 1,595, he played soccer. If you scored between 900 and 1,000, he played JV soccer. 300 to 800, well, he played football for Bob. And under 300, he transferred to Henniger and played for Tommy Acey. Also, I think before we go any farther, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't introduce some of the dignitaries that haven't been announced who felt it necessary to come to this most important function. First, Dr. Peter Kakras. Well, he was here. I guess he found out that Bob is just retiring from football and not teaching, and decided not to waste the afternoon. Dr. Larry Martinson is the State Director of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. Oh, couldn't make it. Jerry Calamari, who is past ATA President, resident intellectual, and legend in his own mind. Oh, Penny Adams said he had a Communist Party meeting on the left side of the lake. Couldn't make it. Assistant Principal Peter Cardamone. Peter hopes to make it a little later this afternoon. We had a student attack and mug one of the teachers last week. And this afternoon was the only time the student could fit in a detention on his schedule. Board member Tom Colvin. Oh, I guess Tom figured his $25 would only entitle him to 3 hot dogs, and he declined to attend. I know this person's here, Bill Soroka. Bill has to be considered a dignitary. Anybody who could get 230 people to a clambake when 200 of us didn't want to come in the first place deserves some recognition. And finally, a letter from the Guinness Book of World Records. It says, "Dear Bob, we're happy to announce that the following records submitted to us for recognition have been certified and will appear in our next issue. These are least amount of 45-minute classes needed to teach a whole wrestling unit plus run a tournament, 1 class. Most discipline referral cards written in a day, 12. Most discipline referral cards written within a week, 25. Most unacted on referrals written in a week, 25. Most wide basketball games in a single year, 810. Most saltine crackers in an 8-ounce soup bowl, 110. Most fake yawns during a day, 78. You're recognized as being the first person to receive his black belt in basketball. And the first person to receive the Norm Crosby Award for successfully mispronouncing the most words. First, Bob, your record of mispronouncing the names of 85% of your students is a record. Second, we're pleased to announce that the new Norm Crosby Dictionary will accept Bob's new words. Just a few of those are asbestos, that's that fire retardant that we have on the ceiling. The new prophylactic that is needed, device that is used for preventing of AIDS, which is called the Conundrum. And that great leader of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. Bob, best of luck. Carol, many regrets.
That's good. Very good. Good. Very good. Robert, we're willing to give you not equal time, but at least an opportunity to rebut some of the things that have been said about you. If I were you, just as a personal aside, I would probably suggest that you rebut the things that weren't true and let the other stuff go by. So you have an opportunity to answer your critics here.
Jesus. Well, I want to thank, can you all hear me? Oh, there we go. Carol Gritter. Jesus Christ. I'll lose this. I want to thank Jim Cranfield, a great job emceeing this. Billy, Greg, Tommy, all the guys on the committee. They really didn't do me a favor with this, I'll tell you right now. Because there's a lot of people who resent this. I've not been to many people I have dinner, see, this is my second one. Here's the ticket. Testimonial dinner in honor of Robert M. Adams, American Legion Hall, Medina, Saturday, January 16. I still got the ticket, 1960. It's my second dinner. I don't know, I see Bob Deming, who's the director at Ithaca College, former head coach at UB. Bob was my end coach at UB my last 2 years, and I was older than Bob. When he was my coach, I was old in college, I was old in coaching, old in everything. I don't know if Bob was there in that. Bob, you didn't make that testimony along with everybody else from UB, right? Well, this is called such a resentment from my friends and colleagues. It really is. I'll give an example. Now, how the hell can you overlook Dave Harder from Guidance? When he was in the classroom, a dynamo, he was known as a 6'7", 240-pound sleeping pill. Dave Harder has never had a dinner. Jim Salvage, another Guidance. 10 years he's worked, 10 years. With a push of his wife, Patty, make him work hard. He finally won the 1986 Auburn's Homemaker of the Year Award with a special citation for vacuuming. Jimmy's never had a dinner. Mike Cuddy, full-time. He's the only guy who can do this, full-time city legislature, a part-time social studies supervisor. Mike Cuddy's never had a dinner. Tony Passarello, who holds the record for retiring from coaching. Tony's retired from JV soccer coach 17 times. He has received 17 plaques. He's never had a dinner. Oh, my God. It's unbelievable how many guys you've overlooked. Billy Huther.
Do you know Billy Huther has been unofficially retired for the last 10 years? He sits in his guidance office saying to himself, pass me the ball, pass me the ball. Billy has never had a dinner. I don't want to miss, oh my God, I can't overlook this. Tom Calvin, board member. You realize by Tom's actions, hundreds of Auburnians have invested their life savings in the hot dog industry? He's never had a dinner. Oh, jeez. Dave Arthur. Oh, my God. Dave Arthur has successfully, for the past 15 years, been running his real estate and rental business out of the phys ed offices, and there's not one administrator that knows this. Dave Arthur has never had a dinner. Steve Snow. Steve Snow owes East Middle School faculty $500 for all the coffee he has drunk in several years and has never paid for. How he had to pay for this? He had to sell 5 used VCRs he has at his house to meet the bill. Steve Snow, he's never had a dinner. Greg Bohoniak has been my assistant for 21 years. He just has completed the most grueling teaching schedule in the history of physical education at Auburn High School this year. He has finally achieved his life accomplishment. He has figured out how to sleep standing up with his eyes open from 8 o'clock to 3. Greg Bohoniak has not had a dinner. Greg, is he getting nervous? Jimmy Mead. Greg, where's Greg? Is Jimmy getting nervous? Jimmy Mead. Jimmy Mead. Can you believe this guy? You know, he talks about soccer. Soccer is really going big time in Auburn. He has his own strength coach now. There's other things going for him now. Jimmy, when he was attending a soccer clinic, this guy, you know, he hasn't had a dinner. He was attending a soccer clinic in New Orleans. He was going with some board members on one of theirs. And Jimmy sees soccer. I go to Binghamton. Jimmy goes to New Orleans. So Jimmy on his plane, this very beautiful lady, sits down beside me, sees NA on her shirt. He says, Jimmy says, what is that? He says, this is Nymphomaniacs. I don't pronounce it either, Jimmy. Nymphomaniacs Anonymous. Nymphomaniacs Anonymous. He says, my God, what's your name? She says, my name is Virginia Smith. He says, we just had an interesting conference on sexuality. And she, you know, she's having a little conversation with Jimmy. She says, we found out in research that the American Indian has the longest staying power when lovemaking. Jimmy says, boy, that's interesting. So then he's talking, and he says, and also, Virginia said to Jimmy, she says, also, we've discovered that the Jewish Americans have the largest male thing for lovemaking. And got done, she looks at Jimmy and says, what's your name? My name is Tonto Schwartz. So Jimmy, you can see, deserves a dinner, and he's never had a dinner. It's been a while. I just want to thank everybody. I thank Fran, who first hired me in 1960. Russ is here. Al Bernetti, I worked with Al. He's going to be a hell of a guy here. Again, Bob Deming, and all the coaches, Greg, Tony, Jeff. I don't leave these guys out, Tommy. And thank Bill. What a hell of a job you've done this, Bill. It's a lot of fun to see all these, especially the players and all the friends of Auburn Maroon football. It really something to see all you guys. I mentioned Bill Case, too. He helped me. Everybody that's helped. And, I'll miss it, but it's been a lot of fun. Nice to see all you guys. These you guys, I stay young. You guys are getting old. I can't figure this out. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll make some drawings in a few minutes. We'll try to announce them over the din. We still have about a half an hour left to go on steamers. The keg is open, and we wish you have a really nice time. Please don't forget to sign the guest book. All right, that'll mean a lot to Bob in the future.